Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. In this video, I'm gonna go over how to actually set up a LiveKit agent. Now, I'm going back to my roots. If you guys saw some of my older videos, it was very much about me and how I build chat agents and things like that. And over these last couple of months, we've really gone into enterprise level voice agents. And a big part of that has been LiveKit or LiveKit similar agents. So I wanted to take this opportunity as I'm learning to use LiveKit to see what's out there. I also want to sort of share the learnings as I go along. So I'm gonna make this a series where this is gonna be essentially the setup on the cloud version, and I'm going to try to approach it from an angle as somebody who is not technical. So if you're a developer and you're looking for all the code will still be in here, but this is very much aimed at somebody who isn't as familiar with code so that they can follow along. Because I've seen a bunch of tutorials and a lot of them focus very much on the developer centric, which I understand, but that negates or that leaves a bunch of people who can benefit from a software like this, but just simply don't have the material in order to actually go ahead and implement it. Now, the first question you might have is, why should I care about LiveKit? Why does it matter? And what even is it? The good news is you're probably already using LiveKit. If you've used ChatGPT voice mode, LiveKit is the company behind that. So they very much are enterprise scale software. The real purpose, the reason why we're using LiveKit similar softwares is when you want to go to enterprise, when you want to go and you're dealing with thousands of calls a day or hundreds of thousands of minutes, millions of minutes per month. VAPI, Retail, Blend, these other providers, they have concurrency limits, meaning concurrency being the amount of calls that a singular agent can take on, which can obviously be a bottleneck. It also gets very expensive. And as you're creating more and more agents or your applications are becoming more and more enterprise grade, you want to be able to control your costs. You want to be able to fine tune specifically what models you're using. And LiveKit just comes out of the box being able to do that. And more importantly, or at least in our case, we can self-host it. So if you're dealing with any data that has to be HIPAA compliant or anything like that, it puts us in a really good spot to be able to prove to our clients that our infrastructure is compliant. So without further ado, let's go ahead and actually set up LiveKit. The next videos I'm thinking about making are, and this one is going to be how to host it on the cloud. The next one is going to be how to host it on AWS. And then I want to make how to actually integrate tools, etc. If there's a specific topic that you want to cover about LiveKit or maybe a more deep dive comparison, let me know. Let's get started. So once you actually go ahead and log in, it's actually just live. If you never log in, it's just livekit.io. Yeah, livekit.io. Go ahead and sign up. Pretty straightforward. And then you're going to see a screen that looks like this. Now, I'm gonna go sort of tab by tab on the first ones that are the most important, just so you have some idea of what's happening. A lot of this stuff will be pretty similar if you've used VAPI or Retail before, or Blend as well. And if there are differences, I will try to mention them as they come up. So starting from overview, you have your API keys, obviously, your AI agents, pretty self-explanatory. The documentation is pretty good. It is developer centric, but that's what the point of these videos are. And then telephony integrations, you can see connection success, the different platforms. And as you're sort of looking through the UI, you can start to tell that this very much is much more for developers than anybody else. Bandwidth, a bunch of technical jargon that doesn't really matter right now. The important stuff or the call logs is what they call sessions, because, and this is my understanding of it, LiveKit isn't simply built for phone calls. That is, I'm assuming it is the primary use case, but you can also have LiveKit agents on a website. You can also have them on a Zoom meeting. Describing all of these sessions as calls isn't really accurate, so they call them sessions. And then, let's see. You've got agents, which is pretty, this is just how many agents you have. And every LiveKit account on the cloud version, I believe you can make one agent, or you can have one phone number that's deployed with a singular agent. And we're actually going to go ahead and create an agent in this video. So for clarity, this is how many agents are currently deployed right here. You have your current agent sessions, which as it says here is simply the amount of agents or the amount of active sessions. So if there's 5 calls with a singular agent, this would say 5 concurrent agents sessions. The billing minutes that you've used this month, and then some graphs detailing your usage. At the bottom, you can see different agents. Actually, well, you can go ahead and create a new agent here, but below that, you're gonna have telephony, which is essentially where you can see all the different calls. Dispatch rules is essentially, it's a more in-depth version of connecting a phone number to an agent. What I mean by that is, let's actually go ahead and create a dispatch rule, because I think this is gonna be the biggest difference between this software and VAPI and Retail. So let's say I have dispatch rule here. I'm going to call it rule demo. All right. Then I have a couple different rule types. Now, what threw me in for a loop is you see right here where it says individual, caller, and direct. So individual means that every person who calls in is going to have their own room. Think of a room like a session that gets created specifically between an agent and a person or somebody calling in. A callee is every agent has a singular room, meaning multiple people could go into the same room with a singular agent. It can be a little confusing, but the vast majority of the time, you will be using individual, unless you have like some webinar type thing where somebody could ask a question from a singular agent. That might be where you use Callie. And then, let's see here. You have a room prefix. This is a way for you to be able to easily identify different rooms. So as you're looking through different sessions, you're saying, hey, look, for this dispatch rule, name all of them starting with D1 dash. So I know, okay, whenever I see this in my logs, I know that this was for this specific dispatch rule or this specific agent. And then I can go to add agent. Now, I didn't get this at first, but the way that this works is for you to be able to actually connect a phone number to an agent, you take the name of the agent which we're about to create, and we're gonna put it in here. So let me go ahead and cancel this. And let's go and actually create an agent. So I'm gonna go to, I don't think it'll allow me. Okay, so I've already reached the maximum threshold, so let's go ahead, I'm just gonna go ahead and edit an agent for myself. This is obviously just a demo account. If I go and edit in Builder, if I go here, this is the agent screen. And there's a few different components here, obviously. The agent name is the name that we're gonna wanna copy from this screen into the dispatch rule that we spoke about earlier. Concurrent agent sessions, which is just how many active sessions is this agent in at the moment. Agent ID, agent region, agent uptime if it goes down for any reason, etc. And different versions that you've had here at the bottom, which is just how, as you've been creating new agents or creating new versions of it, you can see your older versions, which is actually super helpful. So now let's assume I want to edit this, or in your case, you might be creating one from scratch. This is where it's actually pretty similar to VAPI, Retail, and the rest of those voice AI softwares, where you have a name, and then you have a prompt right here. And I'm actually going to go ahead and bring in a prompt that I have. So for context, what I did is I went to ChatGPT and I just made a super simple prompt. And then I said, you're a prompt engineer and your role is to be an assistant for a dental clinic based in Orlando, which is where I live. Make it generic, don't really use any placeholders as this is purely for demo purposes. So then it went and output me. And technically it didn't even do its job the right way, because what it should have output would have been a meta prompt saying, hey, this should have put out a prompt saying build an agent that does X or Y, Z thing. But that's fine. For this use case, it'll be more than enough. I just want to provide some insight into how you usually create these voice prompts. So I can go ahead and actually just copy all this. And this is the prompt itself, but I told it afterwards to output it in a code block using Markdown. Do not book appointments. You can only help with what the clinic does and doesn't do. Because booking appointments and finding customer information, those are what you would call, or what you would need tools for, which we don't have in this version of it. So I told it right now, the only purpose of this agent is to be a receptionist or to help with questions about said clinic. So I can go ahead and copy this entire code. And the reason, by the way, we use Markdown is think of these hashtags and this notation as a way for the agent to easily identify what is important versus what is less important. So this is like a title, and these are bullet points. Title, bullet points, etc. It just helps identify how to treat every sentence. Once I've copied my code, I can go back in here. I can paste it right there. And then that's essentially my prompt. And there's specific variables you can create. And these will be much more useful as you're putting this up into production, where you want to potentially fill out different variables for people's names as they're calling in. So if somebody calls in, you use the phone number to actually search your database. And then from your database, you bring back in the person's first name. So that instead of saying, hey, how can I help you? It says, hey, Taha, how's it going? But once again, will be a future video as we get to deploy LiveKit into production. Insert variable. And that's pretty much all we need for our prompt right now. Now we could obviously preview it right here.
Hello, I'm here to help answer your questions about dental care services, what to expect during visits, and general
Hi there.
guidance.
What's your name?
I'm your virtual assistant for the Orlando Dental Clinic here to help explain our services and answer your questions about dental care. How can I assist you today?
Can you book an appointment?
I'm glad you're interested in scheduling a visit. I can't book, change,
Perfect.
or cancel appointments directly.
So like you saw, pretty straightforward. It's just there to sort of help answer any basic questions a customer might have. So how do you actually get this on the phone? Because nobody's really going to a dental website and clicking on the agent page. So if you go to telephony, then you go to phone numbers. Actually, let me go ahead and save this. And if you're doing this for the first time, you're probably gonna want to deploy your agent. Now, I'm gonna let this deploy, and then once it's done, I'll show you how to actually buy a phone number so that you can start calling your agent. Cool, so our agent's been deployed. Now at this stage, we can go ahead and actually buy a new phone number because I wanna test this on my phone. It's actually pretty simple. Every LiveKit account on the cloud actually comes with one free phone number. So if you're doing this for the first time, you can just go ahead and click on purchase phone number. You can search different area codes if you want, and then just get any number you want. Now, once you have your phone number, this is where I got sort of tricked up, is you want to go back into the dispatch rules. I'm going to go ahead and delete this rule just for context. So now I've deleted this rule. Look, check this out. So I'm going to go ahead and call this. So you see here, this phone number ends with, what does it say? 7044. So I'm going to call it. And nothing happens. Now, the reason why nothing happens is because there's no dispatch rule associated to this account. So let's see what actually happens when I recreate that dispatch rule. Dispatch rules, create a new rule, rule test. Let's do D1, and then I'm gonna add my agent. Actually, to add my agent, I need to go back and get my agent ID, or my agent name, which I believe was this. Go back to my dispatch rules, add agent. I'm gonna connect my phone number. And then I'm going to do create. Now that that dispatch rule has been created, let's see what happens when I call it again.
Hello. Welcome to the...
Hi there.
Hi there. How can I assist you with your dental questions today?
Who do you work for?
Are you looking for... I'm a virtual assistant here to provide helpful information about the Orlando Dental Clinic services and what you can expect during visits.
Perfect. And just like that, our agent is now connected to an actual phone number using dispatch rules. That about covers it for today's video. Like I said, I want to keep it super simple. Just how do you create an agent on LiveKit? Next video I'm gonna go over is how do you actually deploy it on AWS so you can self-host it. And I also wanna go into tools, how to book appointments, etc. But like I said, the power of this tool is very much that you control a lot more of the infrastructure, you control a lot more of the costs, and scalability is no longer an issue where you don't have to pay for X amount of concurrent lines, especially when you are self-hosting, which is why I want to self-host it. And just for context, if you are going the cloud version, you can go into billing and you can see sort of their different plans. If I go into upgrade, if you go cloud, these are the different plans that you have from build, ship, scale, 0, $50 a month, or 500. But what you really want is the self-hosted version to be able to essentially scale this as much as you want. Thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next one.